Hi, John.
Well, good morning, good afternoon, Judy. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm just awesome. Thank you so much. Let's go ahead and kick off today's webinar. Our topic today is effectively for everybody that's joining us from across North America and perhaps the globe, an open discussion with Ms. Judy Plotz. If you haven't heard the news, we here at SupportLogic are beyond thrilled. Even myself personally, even more so, because gosh, she's my right-hand partner in crime now, about the arrival of Judy as our Chief Customer Officer. She brings an incredible CV, a background and support experience to the table. And for those of you that are joining us on today's call, I make you bet you probably know that she spent time with companies like Salesforce, MuleSoft, Infor, and even a little company where I grew up called Oracle. She also held a position of VP of Research at TSIA. So she's been doing this for a long, long time. And gosh, it's just exciting to talk to her and to hear about her experiences. Quick intro on my side. My name is John Kelly. I am the Chief Revenue Officer for SupportLogic. And the only little tidbit I'd share as our conversation goes on here is, like Judy, I grew up in support. So many, many years ago, I started in the support organization. I was a break-fix individual that happened to be with Oracle. We overlapped a little bit over there and ended up running global teams at scale. So I had teams of thousands of support engineers. The P&L was billions of dollars, et cetera. So I just love, like Judy, talking about all things support. For today, as we go through the webinar, for everybody that's joined us, I'll share this. It's meant to be an intimate and very direct conversation with Judy. The less talking I do, the better. And I encourage all of you to use the chat windows, Q&A sections, and participate with us. We even have an ability for you to go on camera and have the conversation directly with Judy and ask those questions. So it should be, I think, action-packed. And Judy, I hope you're ready to go.
I am.
Awesome, awesome. So, hey, Judy, why don't we kick this off? Tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, other things you'd like to share, and then what drew you to a company like SupportLogic?
Thank you. Well, you did a great job on the intro, and I appreciate that, John. I have been in support for 30 years, and this is where I want to be. This is what I've done. This is what I know. And this is what gets me up in the morning. And, you judge the happiness in your life, and especially with your work life, by how do you feel on Sunday evening? Are you dreading Monday morning, or are you excited about it? And my Sunday evenings, I'm always excited about Monday mornings. So it's my DNA. And, I think through my time, definitely at TSIA, almost 6 years of researching in support services and meeting so many people from around the globe, it was apparent to me that we needed a different culture in support. Support had been just kind of beaten down for so many years, but we needed, some disruptive tools, and we needed things that actually made a support executive and a support manager and a support engineer's life better. And I will always remember being at the TSIA Expo floor and, meeting Krishna, our CEO. And I had just given a presentation about the fact that the people who could change the world for support were the people who were doing the job. And here was Krishna, having, been a support engineer himself at VMware. And he had this crazy, amazing tool. And it was a tool that I knew right away would be disruptive in our industry, because who actually puts that much focus on improving the customer experience, the agent experience, the manager experience? And so it was easy for me to make this decision to move over here. And, to me, it's one of those tools. It's like your iPhone, if you will. If you don't have one, the question is why? Like, why wouldn't you have moved to a smartphone? To me, if you don't have SupportLogic, why? So hopefully my peers in the industry know that I'm pretty selective and pretty choosy. And if I came here, it's because my belief is absolutely that this is a product support executives need to have.
That's awesome, JD. I've made the joke because clearly I've also drank the Kool-Aid as a member of the SupportLogic team, that if I had this product all those years ago, that I'd have a full head of hair. It really is game changing. Tell me, in general, what excites you today about like the support industry in general? Like what's really inspiring you?
Oh, I think that the energy right now that in support is amazing. And I feel a whole different pattern, a whole different kind of aura, if you will, around support, because support is still living, if you will, on the bit of the high. And not that there was anything good about the pandemic. However, support came through that brilliantly, and they did amazing things for their company. And I think for one of the first times, truly, in all the years I've been doing it, this is the time when the C-levels have taken notice of support and said, look at you over there doing that stuff. They knew all along support was doing a lot of heavy lifting, but the seamless way that support made the transition to remote work, that they were taking care of the customers in amazing ways, while customers themselves were having every form of disruption you could imagine. And, it really started to land that we needed to have this ultimate care for the customers that were already here. Yes, we're still out hunting for more, but these customers that are here and spending this money with us, it's, we can't neglect that, and we can actually over-service them in a lot of ways. And
right.
We really have a lot to do.
Right. So the C-suite's taking notice, right? The impact on the business financially is huge, right? Because support is the tip of the arrow to make sure that we continue to earn and maintain the dollars that we've already procured. Tell me about, again, the biggest challenges that you're seeing as a support leader, like up to the management levels, to your peers throughout the organization, and in working with your teams who are often distributed, remote, and global in nature.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's always a lot in support. Support is amazing at collecting problems, right? So there's a lot of issues. I think one is support still having the cost center mentality, whether they are truly a cost center, even some that have made the transition to a profit center. But there is that cost center mentality. There's the reductions that are going on right now. The reductions in force across the industry. I would say to support leaders, you're going to get the ask. Now's the time to double down and double down seriously and take care of your staff. And if you can have the intelligent conversations about all the value support is bringing, maybe there's other places in the company, but not support, not the org that, we used to say at TSIA, we touch the customer 10 times more than any other organization does. Sure. Let's not mess with that. But if we're going to mess with it, unfortunately, if we take a reduction in force right now, then we need to automate the tasks that can be automated. And, one of the things that was so appealing to me, with SupportLogic and the predict and prevent, everywhere I've ever worked, and you mentioned a company that we cross paths on, the escalations were just there constantly, right? You don't avoid them. You know that there's going to be an escalation. You don't know when, you don't know why. Usually it's Friday afternoons. We all know that. However, if you can get those away from your staff, if you can get those away from your managers, if you can get those away from your CEO or your sales executives, and you can be taking care of customers in a way that they don't have to pull that, can I speak to your manager line? you're reducing that stress footprint for the agents that are left with you that weren't impacted by a potential layoff. That, to me, it just speaks volumes that you are honestly looking at the way to reduce the stress footprint. And escalations leave the biggest footprint on a support organization. Get those out of there. And, with this product, and the fact that we can get them out of there, and some of our customers are saying they went from double digits to low single digits, like the number starts with a 1. That's amazing. And the money that goes into those escalations, you think about it, you do the math, what a normal cost per incident is, but when you do it, when it's escalated up to a C level, everybody's sending emails on top of emails with the CC line growing every time someone hits send, setting up a war room, doing Slack, all of it, just to get ahead of an escalation that you could have been ahead of before the customer even thought that they needed to pull the trigger. It's a no-brainer.
Right. So fascinating. The term support experience is being bantered about a lot, right? And the investment, the importance of investing in the support experience. From my perspective, the support experience applies bidirectionally. So we should be thinking about how we invest to make sure that our customers have the best support experience. We also should be thinking, as you're alluding to, as you pointed out, about the experience for the people providing the support, right?
Yeah.
Which firmly committed to making sure that all of their customers are successful, et cetera. How do you make a day in the life for the engineer, for the analyst, for the people providing that support, especially if there's a pressure of fewer resources to go around to do those jobs, to prevent these escalations? Tell me, why should companies, and how should companies be thinking about, quote, the investment in the support experience? What's your advice and guidance there?
Yeah, so this might be a bit of I don't know, maybe I can do something without being controversial, but I think the industry, all of us did it. We over-rotated to customer experience for a long time. And I talked about this at TSIA, and I was trying to be cautionary at the time, but that's over. We have to actually move beyond caution and be real about it. Our employees suffered because of the pivot over rotation to CX. We didn't do it on purpose, but everybody was so invested. The customer success was really coming on as an art and science. And a lot of companies were putting huge investment there, and we were doing customer journey mapping and hiring, customer experience teams. And all of that directionally was right, except then the agent experience wasn't considered as strongly. And so the agents are kind of over there using the tools that they had. And here we are just trying to lay it on so amazing so that customers had this, loyalty with us. And then here's the agents kind of looking at us going, hey, what about me? They can be happy if I'm happy. It's a two-way street, right? And so now, thankfully, the agent experience is front and center, but along with, the SX, that's beautiful and brilliant. And when SupportLogic did the SX Live earlier this year, and you look at the people that showed up and the people that wanted to present and the people who wanted to learn and be part of that, it's clear that this has just been a boiling pot for a long time. And I'm so proud of what SupportLogic did. And I didn't work here at the time. But I remember at the time thinking it's about darn time. And again, it's not the agents in the basement, who are doing the cost center work, the break fix work, right? There are people in support like you, like me. We've made it a career, and this is a meaningful place to be. And given what we can do with the data that we have, and that's always been a thing. We sit on millions and millions and millions and millions of amounts of data. And support could go to our brethren in the other organizations and say, hey, let me help you make your job easier. Let me help you make the product better. Let me help you sell in a different way. And, I think support finally has that energy and passion. And it's just like a perfect star alignment right now. So I hope that the support executives are getting their oomph back. Not that they all lost it, but there was something about being a support executive and you just kind of accepted, But
Sure.
I think it's a time for the oomph and all of the great stuff to be front and center.
Judy, you mentioned SX Live, and for those people listening on today's webinar, at our website, we do have a section there for all of the different presentations and content that came from that user conference, in which we had well over 1,000 attendees and presenters from across the industry that gave just great updates on the support experience, the support industry in general, success, and others. So if anybody's interested in taking a look at some of the content, there's a lot of great little tidbits that you can pick up from there without question. Judy, I'll come back to a couple of things that you're alluding to. We initially kind of met, obviously through TSIA, et cetera, but also you were a customer. You were actually using our product before you joined us, which is awesome. And so I come back and think about the business case for evaluating, as a CCO, as the head of support, your tech stack and the tools that you want to bring to the forefront to make a better support experience possible. So what was some of the process that you went through to think about what that business case would look like for investing in any tools to make that support experience even better?
Yeah, it's a great question. And you mentioned the tech stack, and the tech stack for support is so important. And, again, through my days in research, we used to look at all of the capabilities we'd want to see across the board in a well-run support org. And I think we said that there were 26 unique categories for what a support org needed to have in place. And it wasn't legacy tools that, were kind of band-aided together. It really was, hey, there's tools out there today that can make the agent's job so much easier. You can stop the mundane, repetitive task, etc. And when I made the decision to go back into, if you will, operations and running support again after my research, I walked in the door of an organization that, my task was to transform it. And literally within the first couple of days, my time was being used as an executive to run down escalations. And I knew immediately that, you kind of open your eyes and go, oh, what did I walk into? It was a beautiful organization. And yet we had escalations happening. And we had just gone into, everybody going to remote work. I think it was like within 2 weeks. And I needed those escalations to stop because I needed to get my managers freed up to help me do the transformation that needed to happen. Mm-hmm. And I knew the amount of time they were spending. I knew the amount of time I was spending. I knew the amount of time my boss was spending on escalations. And I was getting them from, our sales team, our services team. Everybody on the phone knows the drill. Everyone's coming with a different channel of an escalation. And so this was the first product that I brought in as part of the transformation, that I did over there. And I knew immediately. And I'll tell you what the best part of it was. I had a CFO who was my partner in crime. And I had such a wonderful relationship with my CFO that we talked about, here's the problems, here's what I'm trying to solve, here's where I can get hours back in my day, hours back in my manager's days. I can get our CSAT moving, in an even more positive direction, et cetera, et cetera. And my CFO was right there with me. And so it was an easy decision. I wouldn't have been as successful if I didn't have that CFO support. I know that. We did a bake-off with other products. And, I would always say this, when the sales executive and the team showed me the result of running my data through SupportLogic. You can't unsee that, and they showed me things. Right, like, oh, really? Did one of my people really just say that to a customer? And did a customer really say that? And once you see it, you can't unsee it, right? So even if I couldn't have pushed it through, I would have had to, because I needed to fix all the things that the software
one of the things we say all the time, of course, is that we're extracting unbiased voice of customer, but I guess it's really voice of customer and of course support, right?
Yeah.
The people that are supporting those customers. That's pretty funny about the
absolutely.
Joe, in the dialogue here, and also just logically, right? You talk about the importance of the partnership with the CFO. So, like, how did that relationship change? Was there some thing that you brought to the table that made that partnership catapult to the next level? How did that look?
I worked with, and again, my CFO business partner was amazing. He was typical, if you will, in the beginning. So I knew what my budget was, those types of things. But we actually reached a place where he wanted to learn more about support and really understand the issues we were facing. And we just had such a positive relationship, and where he felt like, my eyes are wide open now, and I want to help you. And that for me was it was one of the best things that could have happened, right? To have somebody who's interested in learning and interested in helping and interested. And, Kevin, if you're listening at all, or if you ever hear this, thank you. To this day, he will always forever remain a CFO that literally made my job easier. And he knew that I knew what I was talking about. And so he trusted me to make decisions. He backed me. And, he put bumpers and guardrails around me, which I expected. And yet he would come to me in more of a consultative fashion instead of a dictator fashion. And we would solve problems together. And that was amazing.
So let me ask you this question. I'm going to date myself here. Back in the day when I was doing this, I was really all about the meta, right? All about the metadata, right? That scrumptious metadata that just sits out there and it's like, hey, what severity level, date, time, how long, aging? Boy, that wasn't really the best indicator of success, of the metrics I should be looking at. Today's tools are allowing you to do a lot more. We'll throw acronyms around: AI, NLP, ML, all of these things. I'd ask you this: what in your mind are today's new success metrics that go beyond metadata, right? That go into other things that are more touchy-feely? How do you feel about something? Thoughts? What are very specific examples?
It's one of my favorite topics. I love talking about metrics, and I love talking about burning the boat metrics, because support, I mean, if you talk about support from the 1980s forward, control and compliance, those were the metrics. It was all about control and compliance all the way. It was time to resolution, time to response, CSAT, which is a great metric, don't get me wrong. But by the time you get a CSAT survey, it's too late. Everything should have happened already, well before that CSAT survey. So today's metrics, and there's a balanced scorecard that we produced years ago. We did it, a number of industry leaders, John Ragsdale, TSIA, Phil Vergas from Clever, et cetera. It's called OCMF Group. And it's a balanced scorecard for how we can get to metrics that matter. And while support is always going to have to measure those other things, because it matters and you have to be able to know how you're doing, getting to the new metrics, getting to metrics around, for instance, collaboration. Go ahead and get there, right? That's a touchy-feely. If you want to talk about an interesting metric, so, John, if I'm having a problem and I reach out to you, how interesting is it that I could actually give you a score on how well you collaborated with me in solving that problem? right?
Yeah, right.
And so it makes me want to reach out to you again in the future, and it makes you, if I've scored you positively, willing to help me, right? And so look at that culture that you're creating. So there's that. There's, Greg Walker, who is one of our product managers, teases me, but one of my favorite metrics that there's still not enough adoption for, things like customer effort. Are we making it easy for our customers? Employee effort. Why are we so afraid to measure? Like, are we making it easy for our employees to do their jobs? Have we given them the right tools? Have we gotten the processes out of place that none of us know why they're there? They're just there, and they're heavy and they're onerous. So, I think that getting to the metrics that are meaningful and that they're about coaching and guiding,
Exactly.
because that's what we need today in this industry. We've had enough control and compliance to last our lifetime. Let's guide and coach and be better leaders. And I think, again, our support executives, our support managers, our support directors, they're sitting right there, and they're going to be part of a culture change within their company. And that is phenomenal.
Indeed. So I'm hearing balanced scorecard. I'm hearing customer effort. I'm hearing, I like it, employee effort. We talk a little bit about sentiment scores. We talk about, general health of the relationship between customers. All of that stuff comes into play. And I'm thinking about the impact that support has on all of those things. And then, hey, we've got our friends in success. So we've got our customer success organizations. We've got account management often that is coming at these accounts from a different angle. We still have the sales organ. So we have all these different interested parties, but I'm most curious, where do you see kind of support and success, and maybe some of those other groups, where do they start intersecting? Do they intersect? Who does what? Tell me about those relationships from your perspective as CCO.
Yeah. So I hope the competition and the conflict is gone, right, between success and support. If you're in an org and you still have that conflict, let's step back and look at why that is. I can see conflict with other business units, and sometimes that's healthy conflict, but success and support are probably two of the most collaborative groups that belong, if you will, together. So one of the things, of course, is look at that leadership channel that you have. If success and support are reporting into two separate leaders, I'd step back and I'd really look at that, right? Because you could have two leaders who, not by design, but they might be actually opposed in how they approach things, how they view, right, the customer life cycle, things like that. So start there, look at that reporting structure. But then as you come down, it's not uncommon where there's overlap. So success, what do we want from them? We want them taking care of the customers who've already spent with us. Right. And we want them helping that customer potentially expand and renew with us. But, there may be times they have to log a case on the customer's behalf. Okay, so there's an intersection point with support. They might be, okay to help a customer with a how-to question, right? Happens all the time. Success is drilled in and knows, the products and things just as well. So there's so many complementary angles where success and support are together. But the truth of it is, if we could go back in time, wouldn't we want to change the term for customer success and not have it be a team where everybody thinks that's the only team responsible for customer success? I wish we could have called it anything else, because the truth is support is responsible for customer success. Sales is, services is, education is, onboarding is, everyone. Right. And yet somehow we just did this thing called customer success and we created a team, We're all responsible for customer success. And I really hope support and success have figured that out by now. They're incented, on the same types of metrics. It's amazing how many support orgs don't share incentives for having the customers renew, having the customers expand, and you look at that and you think, well, that's in opposition to what the rest of the company is doing. So you have to bring support along on that journey because it matters. We have to have a culture where we're all surrounding the customer with so much care, so much compassion that we all just celebrate all the time how successful our customers are.
I would argue that the companies that do that and do that effectively very well are so much more successful than those that don't.
Yeah.
Well, hey, I'll say this. We're already 30 minutes into our great conversation here. I want to make sure that others on the call have the opportunity to ask you some questions. So I'm going to tee that up as I keep asking you one or two more. If you're on the webinar and you'd like to ask Judy a question, pop it in the Q&A section or chat. I'll get those teed up. And or, as Reggie was saying earlier, you can come on camera, raise your hand, and we'll make that possible. There's a link on the bottom. But the whole point about this is to have a very large dialogue with Judy. And I encourage you to ask some questions here. Judy, I'll go to one more question and we'll see if we get a couple in here popping up.
Okay.
So many things going on, right? And so many changes in the industry with you joining us, exposure to lots of new tools. We're talking tech stacks. We're talking about different ways to balance our scorecards and measure the success of an organization, so on and so forth. This is the magic question. What is like a significant first step? Something that the people on the call today can do, easy wins that propel them forward on a journey around, you want to call it digital transformation, embracement of support experience. What are the quick wins?
That's the $1 million question. I thought you were going to ask me for my, dog's first name or something, so you could get my password out of me. But okay, let's go with this. I think, for a leader in support, a leader in services, right? Stop trying to boil the ocean. It's not going to work. Get to a place where you have figured out where again, it's about that stress footprint for me. It really, really is. And even though, let's hope that we're completely, in the clear now with COVID and stuff, you have hard decisions to make. Are you going back to the office? Is that going to be something that you manage to now? Are you keeping your people at home? There's tough calls happening. Are you going to reduce force? Are you going to, go through a merger and acquisition anytime soon? So let those be your strategic issues that you have to wrestle with. Please reduce the stress footprint. Look for the ways that you can take stress off of your staff and off of your leadership team. And I would say again, and I would say this whether I worked at SupportLogic or not, pick the area where you can finally be proactive, predictive, personalized, preventative. Pick one area. And again, that's not boiling the ocean. Pick one. And, that's what I did at MuleSoft. I said, I have to get to a place I can literally take care of a bunch of birds with one stone. Bad analogy, but it works here. If I put prevent and predict in place, and we had results in this. We got an hour a day back per manager. Think about that. An hour a day per manager.
That's huge.
And I could reroute them to me time. I could use them in projects that I had put on the back burner because I didn't have people to take care of them or lead them. I could give that time back to their teams and they could do more coaching, guiding, more empathetic care of their staff. So pick the area. Where do you have the pain? And I would say for support, it's always in escalations. And you might say, well, that's doing business. Does it have to be, right? Do any of us want to pull the, can I speak to your manager card? None of us want to. And when you do, you almost feel kind of bad about having to do it. Why do we want to make our customers feel getting cases routed correctly, right? That's another area that is so important. Get it to the right person the first time. Use the analytics. And yes, again, that's a shameless plug for our tools here. But we have routing, we have coaching and evaluation of agents. And the key word there, coaching. So, get to the place, pick the one area that you can knock out the stress footprint, and it just feels so much better. And then you can keep moving. And again, escalations are not part of doing business. They don't have to be, they shouldn't be. And we shouldn't put our customers through it. And I don't think we should be putting our staff through it.
That's a great response, Judy. We have a question. And so I definitely want to have those that are asking those get to the forefront. So Stephen asks this question: how long did it take you to get everything in place to be able to reduce time spent on escalations?
Great question. And happy to help with that answer. It was a couple of weeks. From the time that we had SupportLogic up and running, after we made the selection, we were able to train the tool, because of course that is part of this. So when we were alerted, some escalations were valid, but some, quite frankly, just because of the nomenclature that we would use and stuff, it was normal to use certain terms. It was a couple of weeks, and we were reducing our CSAT. We went from, I believe it was a 4.5 to a 4.7. And we're talking a couple of weeks. We had to rerun it a couple of times, because we were like, no, we didn't get that good that fast. And we had great stuff. And the best part, we found things that were occurring. Customers that were doing and saying things to some of our agents that our agents weren't sharing with us, simply because they were anxious to do so, and they felt like, well, I can't take that forward to my manager. I don't want to be a problem, whatever. But it was things that customers were doing that were very inappropriate to some of the agents. We found that using SupportLogic, we would have never found that otherwise. Never. Unless there was some reason we would have had to crawl through one of those cases, and we just wouldn't have. But we were able to go back to the customer and talk to him about his behavior and what we expected. So great question. It's fast. We're doing a lot here on our side now that I have the onboarding team to really make it a fast transition from the moment a prospect turns into a customer, because we want you getting to that data as quickly as possible, because we want you to see those amazing results. So I would encourage people to really look at it that way.
Judy, I'll say this: I'm one of the biggest ahas joining the company myself, and I've been here for a year and a half plus. Obviously, the prediction side of this, right? Being able to get in front of escalations, massive, right? And you were talking about case routing and the like. But I was always thinking about that from the perspective of the customer. And what you just shared was, I didn't think as much about the impact on our teams, right? And it's a tough job. What we do is so difficult. And in the situation you're talking about, right? Sometimes customers aren't necessarily always nice to the people on the phone. Sometimes they're coming at things a little bit different. Giving the tools to the leadership team, right? To the company to say, hey, here's what it's like to be on the front lines. My thing, I was always like backlog management. Dude, I always had, everybody had a backlog. When I come in the morning, wow, I got 100 tickets I got to work on, 50, whatever. Which ones do I work on and when? Right? Yeah. That, if you do it smart, changes the day in the life for the people on the team. Better support experience for the customers too. So all of these unanticipated benefits of getting the voice of the customer exposed. I just look at that across the board. So Judy, well, hopefully we'll get a few more questions here. Another one pops into my mind. Educating, I'll say the executive team or people that don't live in the support organization, what it's really like to walk a day in your shoes, so to speak. What are the things that, as you're talking to other senior leaders, that are sound bites or small tidbits that you can say, this is truly the impact that we're making. This is true. Like we don't have escalations because we're doing a bad job. Escalations occur because anything like that. How do you convince other departments or others about the importance importance of support and what you're doing.
Yeah. So measure what matters, and again, think about it. Support getting ready for a QBR or something. We would make some slides, and we're all really good at pretty slides, and we'd have lots of metrics and things like that. And guess what metric would get focused on in those QBRs? The one that was either declining or had maybe turned to red, right? So you had all these other metrics that were amazing, but it was just that focus on that one. Why did that one go down? Get to a smaller amount of what you're sharing with your executives, and get to a place where you can attach yourself to the customer value. How fast did a customer smile once they bought your product, right? How fast did they have a return on an investment? Did you get in front of the issues before they even knew? Catherine Sullivan, who is a board member of ours, but she was a peer of mine at Salesforce, would always say, +1. How did we do with the +1s today when it came to adding value for the customers that they didn't even know they needed from, that they wanted from, right? And think about it. If you're in support today and you're still measuring time to resolution as an example, and again, it's a valid metric, I understand it. But what if you said to your support agents, hey, the next problem they're going to run into, it, help them with it while you have them right now. Well, that's going to really mess up your time to resolution. But it's worth it, right? Because you've done the +1. You've given them that extra help. So for support, stop sitting on all of that data, sitting on the customer sentiment that you have. Start sharing that with customer success, with product. We made that transition at MuleSoft where we were able to go to product with things from the cases that would have taken us months and months to read these cases and roll the cases and get to a place where you could do a Pareto analysis. SupportLogic helped us do it in, what felt like seconds, really. And we could go back with trends, and we could have very meaningful conversations with our product manager about things that we needed in the product or things that the customers wanted, etc. So use this rich data and the way that SupportLogic can help you mine this data. Yeah. Again, I feel like I'm a walking commercial right now, and yet it's why I joined the company, because, oh my goodness, come on, guys, come on this ride with us. It's amazing. So it's there.
It really does work. So we got another question from Kern Bloom. How can we really change the culture to be more customer-centric, as he speaks well English, and engage the product teams to support the support? I like that. So how do we engage?
I do too.
That's a great question.
I do too. And what's funny? The best quote, Peter Drucker has thousands and thousands of amazing quotes, right? But the one, the purpose of business is to get and keep a customer, right? It's not to go out and just create a product, right? It's to get customers and keep them. So, and I might not have done that quote perfectly, but what the intent of what he's saying is, right? It's to create these relationships with customers that they want to stay with you. And so for me, especially with a product, for years, a lot of product managers lived on features and loved features and created lots. And, it's no different, if you will, than some of these loyalty programs that get created in the industry. And you're like, did I want that? I don't think I even wanted that. Right? And customers do that with the product. So again, for support, go to them with a gift, and go to them with the gift of data, because you're sitting on it. And so a product like ours will help you mine that data, and you can go there with a gift with the bow wrapped on it. And you can say, hey, let's work together. But think about products' life. They see enhancements and they see defects. They don't get to see all this great stuff in the middle. Very rarely do they know what the other 80% of their issues are. And so support can help with that and say, look at this 80% of stuff sitting in here that you never see, We've taken it, we've analyzed it, we've given you the trends, we've given you suggestions. That's a gift like no other. And I know our product managers here love that.
Yeah.
And any product manager would love that. Go with a gift. And it's the gift of that data bundled up in a nice package.
So, Judy, you said a little bit earlier about all of the options you have available to you to do things. I take it. Pick one, kind of focus. I heard this theme around focus, and escalations was big. Ultimately, we want to move from reactive to proactive, case routing, certainly coaching, analytics, all of these things. I like to be very tactical and say for everybody here on the call, what are the 2 action items, the must-have next steps that you would recommend to anybody that's a support leader or chief customer officer that they do when they get off today's call? Like, what can they actionably do that will make it even more exciting for them over the next 12 months and the customers and the teams that they take care of?
Well, I don't know if you meant for this
if you want.
such a did you mean for a softball like that? I mean, that seems...
I thought it was kind of mean asking for 2, but okay, whatever you got. But you get the idea. It's just from your knowledge, like what are things that they might not be thinking of, outside the box thinking that they should do?
Oh, well, see, I think every support leader is always thinking. The problem is they're thinking too much, right? They have too much on their plate and they're trying to drive too much. And they're trying to do it, sometimes in a crazy culture where, as we talked earlier in the call, support's not viewed as strategic or a differentiator. Number one, it sounds trite, but put your listening ears on. Just seriously put your listening ears on. Find out from your agents and your managers, what is the most stressful part of their job. Find that out. You may think you know what it is, but you may not. And, I'll tell you again, using my last experience when I was a SupportLogic customer, the pain and agony that a lot of the escalations caused, the fact that it took us a long time when a customer would escalate, because if you're anything like the rest of us, you go out, you find the cases, you review the case, you do all of this work before you even talk to the customer, because you want to go in loaded with, both sides of the story. Well, support executives know there's 17 sides to a story, and reading a bunch of cases is not going to get you all 17 sides.
Yeah, I used to do that a lot.
So put your listening ears on. And again, if you want to keep the people in the chairs that you have today, and I think most of us do, right? We care so deeply about our teams. Look for those areas where you can make their life better, because if you do that for them, they're going to give it back to you in spades. And we always talk about get the effort out. Look for the areas that are heavy. They are process driven. Seriously, don't over engineer this stuff. Just find it. Find the things that, why are we doing it this way? Do we have to do it this way? Ask those questions. But again, this is the softball part of this question that you threw at me. And I'm sorry, I'm going to say it. If you haven't looked at SupportLogic, schedule a demo, period. And I'm sorry that, I'm the chief customer officer, but I'll tell you, I want to see more customers come in here and look me in the eye and say, oh my God, you changed my world. Because that's what this product can do. So
I heard listening ears, and I heard make support teams' life easier.
Yeah.
Kind of at macro level. Judy?
Yeah.
Number one thing, don't do what?
Don't keep doing it the way you've always done it.
Yeah. Definition of insanity, doing the same thing and expecting a different outcome. Okay?
That's right. Be bold. Now's the time, and I believe this wholeheartedly. And I've known support executives for years and years and years. And I would watch all of us go through our peaks and valleys, right? And we'd have to boost each other up and kind of go, come on, buddy, you can do it, right? Go in another day, and be dragged through the muck. Be bold. Now's the time to be bold and do things that you know will make a difference, right? If you could clear, let's just say hypothetically, you could clear 50% of the escalations off the plate that you have today, and you could come in to work on that Monday morning and leave on that Friday afternoon and feel like you made amazing progress that week instead of the drain, right? Wouldn't that be amazing? Wouldn't it be amazing that you never had to go speak to another support engineer about a case that was wrongfully routed to them in the first place, right? Like, we know enough. We can use our software to predict, hey, Judy does really well with this type of customer. We'll give Judy that type of customer. Don't make me serve the other ones. If for some reason, if I don't do well with a certain type of DBA, well, don't try to make me do well there. Just give me where I do really well, right? We have the ability to use all of this customer sentiment and employee sentiment to change things, and we should do that.
Judy, I'm with you. I mean, I go back and think you're, as a support leader, burdened no matter what by the tech stack. Whatever you have in place, it's not easy to rip that out and replace it overnight.
Sure.
It's a heavy, heavy thing. So we have to operate daily with what we have.
Yep.
And you're alluding to, right, the don't do nothing. Like, just the definition of insanity is doing nothing and expecting the same, a different result rather. I was always looking for the one or two kind of aha tools, aha solutions. Something was very, very different. It was game changing. Could be a force multiplier that could double or triple or make the investment I already have more efficient. And as you say, the most important thing, make a day in the life of my support teams better, because without them, we got nothing, right? So it's people first, right? And then it's the systems and tools and things like that. So unbelievably great conversation. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I will say this, I'm gonna put this out here, Judy. For anybody that's on today's webinar, Judy's email is judy@supportlogic.io. Not kidding, it's JUDI. I would encourage you to reach out to her at any time. I think that Judy would love to have those dialogues and those discussions, because she's so passionate about all things support in the industry, as we all are. And I'll just simply say this. Again, I'm thrilled you're here. You make my job a lot easier now within our company. And hopefully everybody here on the call, you enjoyed this brief hour with Judy. Any other closing comments, or did I miss anything, Judy? Or do I have a question on that?
I'm glad to be here with you. I'm glad to be, I think you described it, your partner in crime. This is going to change the world, this product. It really is. And I mean that for every company out there. If you haven't looked, look. And I am very passionate about support, but I'm passionate about what's happening for us right now as practitioners in the industry. And so I do want those emails and those touch points with anybody who wants to talk to me, because it's our happiness and passion that's going to change our workforce and our customers' lives and, our fellow business units' lives. So let's do that together.
Awesome. If you would like to see the product, there's a little button on top, get demo. Just a quick little 10, 15 minute thing, and that'd be fun if anybody's interested. Judy, have a wonderful Wednesday, September 7th.
You, John, it was a pleasure to spend time with you.
Likewise, and thank you everybody for taking time out of your days.